Audio Jungle.
World's richest person now owns Twitter, has fired top executives and is moving to take the company private. This completes a months-long saga in which Musk tried to back out of the deal, was sued by Twitter's board for alleged breach of contract and was ultimately forced to finalize the takeover. Why conservatives are happy? They've felt targeted by Twitter for a long time. They argue that because the people who work at Silicon Valley tech companies tend to be liberal, that affects the decisions they make about what content is allowed and what isn't. All of the 5 elected officials to be temporarily or permanently suspended from Twitter are Republicans. The most famous, of course, is Donald Trump, whose account is suspended indefinitely. While liberals are annoyed, while liberals have traditionally been free speech champions, there's now a movement toward limiting the spread of what's known as misinformation or disinformation. When Twitter has taken censorship action on hot-button topics such as the coronavirus pandemic and transgender issues, many liberals have been pleased with the approach. Plus, they note that Musk has gone public with his political views. He's far from a traditional conservative, but he has said he plans on voting Republican in this year's midterms and might support Florida Governor Ron DeSantis' for president. What does Musk want to change? There has been widespread speculation about this, but Musk hasn't offered many specifics about how content moderation might change. He has said that it's very important for there to be an inclusive arena for free speech, but Thursday he tweeted thus: Twitter obviously cannot become a free-for-all hellscape, where anything can be said with no consequences. All of this is very messy. While Twitter has posted a long list of things that aren't allowed, including violence and harassment, enforcing the rules evenly is extremely difficult, considering that 450 million people use the platform each month. And moderating content isn't a black and white task. There's some speech that is clearly violent or threatening, and Twitter has banned some individuals with connections to terrorist and white supremacist groups. And it's not just those on the right getting suspended. Over the summer, Twitter permanently blocked abortion rights group Ruth Sent Us, which posted a map with the addresses of the homes of Supreme Court justices after they overturned Roe vs. Wade. But there's a whole bunch of gray area content that might be inaccurate, misleading, or just kind of mean but might not warrant censorship, and passionate disagreement about all of it. Why it's important to protect election software. After President Donald Trump lost the 2020 election, his allies tried to get access to voting machines in several states to prove that the results had been rigged. There is no evidence that widespread fraud occurred. In 2 instances, courts or state legislators granted Trump supporters access to the machines, our colleagues report. In at least 7 other counties, local officials allegedly gave outsiders access to the machines or their data without a court order. Why software matters? In the wrong hands, it could help hackers simulate voting machines and dig for weaknesses. The data and software are also confusing and can be manipulated to try to convince voters of widespread fraud. An example, in one rural Georgia county, a nonprofit run by one of Trump's closest allies paid forensics experts to copy software and data from the voting machines, which they then posted to a website. Election deniers across the country downloaded the software and data, using it to fuel more election fraud theories. The Georgia Bureau of Investigation is looking into whether copying that software violated any laws. Can the next Congress declare Trump's subpoena null and void? This is a reader question, and it refers to the subpoena the January 6 panel issued to Trump. Trump's attorneys accepted the subpoena this week but haven't said whether or how the former president might respond to it. Declaring the subpoena null and void would be a pointless move on Congress's part. That's because a congressional subpoena dies at the end of the Congress that issued it. So let's look at this under 2 scenarios. 1. If Democrats manage to hold on to the House majority, almost no one thinks this will happen, they would have to reissue the subpoena. 2. If Republicans take back the House, they're likely to disband the January 6 committee that issued it in the first place. But even if they kept the January 6 committee alive, that committee would still have to issue a fresh subpoena to keep it going. Given all this, the clearest way for the January 6 committee to move the ball forward before the next Congress would be to send the Justice Department a referral to investigate Trump for possible criminal contempt of Congress.